Hi, and welcome to HC Media Group Training, where today we're going to be looking at invoicing and how do I know who has paid and who have still to pay. So today I'm going to share some top tips with you around how to keep track of your invoicing so as you know who has paid and who hasn't paid. My name is Joe Hamilton and I'm an award-winning author in business. I currently have a book on the wonderful Amazon out there. It's a book on digital marketing, which I'm sure you've probably gathered. And I've called it, wait for it, Cake. Why cake, I hear you say? Why has he called a digital marketing book Cake? Well, for me, I just wanted to add a bit of fun to it. And cake just conjures up for me. It's got all the ingredients that you need to be a professional marketeer. And I just thought that was really, really fitting. It is a very good book, but again, I would say that, being as that I am a little bit biased. But if you do want to learn a little bit more about digital marketing, then it's certainly worth a read. It's out there on Amazon and it's called Cake. I'm the managing director of a Colchester-based business called HC Media Group. And we're the fastest growing marketing agency in Essex at the moment. We started up about 2 years ago, and in Colchester, as I say, we moved into some offices in Colchester near the castle probably about 10 months ago now. And since then, our business has just gone from strength to strength. So it's something that we're really, really proud of. And as I say, long may it continue. In my previous, before setting up HC Media Group, I've managed over 200 retail stores, looking after everything from business management, from a financial point of view, and additionally the human resources. And my specialism is in growing businesses through finance and business management, and making sure that a business is as efficient and effective as it possibly can to make sure it builds the bottom line net profit. I've worked with several businesses up and down the land, some of which I'm sure you will be familiar with. And I've worked with Whitbread. I started my career with Whitbread many years ago, like Whitbread Inns. You may be familiar with Whitbread Inns. And I then moved on to work with a company called Thresher. So Thresher at the time were the biggest off-license chain in the UK. Huge business. And I started off in there as a branch manager. I was a branch manager in their Romford store, where we had 10 staff. Really good business. It was their flagship store, one of the most profitable stores throughout the country, and really enjoyed it there. I then got promoted to being area manager for Thresher, again sharing the expertise that I had in driving that particular store forward. I then wanted to replicate that across 25 stores in Essex, which I did quite successfully. And then before leaving there, I moved in and had a short stint at regional manager, which again was really good. And so much so, I enjoyed it so much that I really wanted to see what else was out there. What else could I influence? What other businesses could I influence? So I then moved over to the cooperative. I was an area manager with the co-op, which I'm sure you are familiar with. Before and recently, I have been with Well. So Well is a pharmacy business. Again, I'm sure you know they've got stores up and down the country. Really good business to be in. Again, I was an area manager with those for about 11 years. And my area covered 25 stores, sort of Essex, North London way, and all the trials and tribulations that go with trying to manage a business in and around that area. Something I really enjoyed, very successful area, and very profitable, which I'm really quite proud of. And then before giving it all up and thinking, well, I want to start my own business, and that's when I started HC Media. So apart from some of those big household names, I have worked with some smaller businesses, and some only had like 4 or 5 employees, and I worked with them on a consultancy basis, where they asked me in just to take a look at their efficiencies, their effectiveness, the culture, indeed, in some of these businesses, and what I could do to influence the the bottom line and the bottom line profit. So again, we really enjoyed that. Some challenging times I might had, but very interesting and enjoyable nonetheless. So that's just a little bit about me. If you would like to get in touch directly, then please do. It'd be great to speak to you. Just email me at team@hcmediagroup.co.uk. That's team@hcmediagroup.co.uk. It would be a pleasure to talk to you. So we've said that we're going to take a look at invoicing, and I'm going to share some top tips with how we manage our invoice matching and invoice processing. So I call it my master invoice sheet, and you will need to keep track of all the invoices you've sent out to clients. In the early stages, we found it's quite easy to manage. You've got 4 or 5 clients; it's really quite straightforward. But as you start to grow, you'll find that trying to keep hold and trying to keep track of invoices becomes much more difficult. And you need to produce a simple invoice numbering system that will help you track these. And again, I'll talk to you a little bit more detail how a top tip that I have for how we manage our invoices and how we have our numbering system and how it actually works. And again, it helps with being able to reconcile these once they've been paid into the bank. Again, I'll show you how to follow up any outstanding invoices, because they do need to be followed up in a timely fashion. Don't just leave it. If you leave it, it gets worse. So you just really need to be on top of it. And ideally, like ourselves, we do get paid up front rather than doing the work and then getting paid. So probably about 90% of our clients pay us up front, and then we go and do the work, albeit we do have some people on 30 days. And so we do the work and then get paid for it. But in the early days, particularly if you're a new startup business, you do ideally want to get paid for the work up front. It really helps, and it helps with your cash flow, etc., etc. So these are some of this is my master invoice sheet. So, and again, I'll just explain it to you. So we start off on the extreme left-hand side. So I'll put the company's name on the left-hand side, and we'll take, for instance, the Coal Hands. So when I send the Coal Hands invoice number out, that's my invoice number there, which is TCH 191101. So again, just as an example and the purpose, and for the purpose of today, so TCH is the letters of the business. So the Coal Hands, TCH. The invoice was in 2019. It was in month 11, which is November, and it was the first invoice. So that's TCH, the Coal Hands, year 2019. It was done in month 11, and it is the first invoice that they had. The invoice amount ex VAT. So bear in mind and remember that if you're doing costings, that everything has got to be ex VAT, purely because you are just there as a gatherer of the value-added tax for the government. So there's no profit, obviously, in VAT. So all our figures we have as ex VAT. I then put in the invoice date that it was sent. So this was sent on the 6th of the 11th, 2019. And the date it was paid on the 11th of July 19. That should have been the 11th of November 19. So a mistake there on my spreadsheet. And I then also put in the cost of the campaign. So although the Coal Hands has paid us £600, it's important to put in the cost, so as you know how much net profit is going to be for that particular month. So the cost of the campaign for the Coal Hands was £255, again ex VAT, don't forget that. The second one is Tenon Limited. So the invoice is Tenon Limited, TEN Tenon. Again, this was sent out on the 19th of November, and it's their fourth invoice. Their invoice is for £2,010, and I sent it on the 6th of the 11th, and we're still awaiting payment. But when they pay, the cost of their campaign is going to be £988. and so forth. I'll work my way all the way down each particular invoice that we send out, and putting in then obviously the date that it has been paid. So before all those were green, when I sent them out, they would have all been red. And as they pay, I'll go into this master invoice sheet and change it to green and put in the date that it was actually paid. So the cost of the campaign. So it's important to add up all your costs of your campaign for the whole month. So in this instance, the total costs of the campaigns was £1,803. Bear in mind this is ex VAT, and I have invoiced £4,269. Therefore, by taking away the cost of the campaign from the invoice amount, leaves me with a gross profit of £2,466. From there, I need to take off my fixed and variable costs, which is £1,750, because that includes my fixed and variable costs, includes my rent, salary, light, heat, marketing, etc., etc. So all of that goes in there, which is £1,750. So my net profit is £716 if every single person pays there. If Tenon Limited, for instance, hasn't paid, then I will be in the red, because the campaign would have cost me £988 had I spent it. That's why it's important to try and get the money up front. So that's how I keep track of invoices that have been paid and that haven't. I normally allow 5 days after when the invoice was sent. So you take a look at Tenon Limited, which is the second one down. The invoice was sent on the 6th of the 11th. 5 days, and it's still, when we're still awaiting for it, 5 days afterwards, I'll be sending a reminder to say, dear Mr. Tenon, as a gentle reminder, please be aware that the invoice for November is still outstanding, and if you could settle it at your earliest convenience, we would be obliged. But that's the only way you're going to keep track. As I say, in the early stages, it's quite easy to do, but when you have 25 or 30, and you will have, then it's much harder to keep control of. So I hope that helps. As I say, I do like to put in what the gross profit is and what the fixed costs are, because fixed costs and variable costs, your fixed costs will be the same every single month, but your variables will be slightly different. And again, we talk about this in more detail on the training course of profit and loss. And again, it's just nice to be able to understand how much your net profit is, and that's after every single thing has been paid, which is not a bad place to be. So if you do need to talk to me in more detail with regard to the subject that we've just gone through, then please do. Please feel free to email me at team@hcmediagroup.co.uk. That's team@hcmediagroup.co.uk. It would be an absolute delight to speak to you. I hope you've enjoyed this part of the training course. I've been Joe Hamilton. Thank you for listening.